Talk about our next film, Boys State. Now, I saw Boys State. You did not have time to check this one
Yeah,
out,
I don't have Apple
but
TV, unfortunately, but I heard it's really good.
it is very good. So I already talked about this film a bit when it came out at Sundance. Saw this one at kind of the midpoint of the festival. I didn't write a formal review, but I did write down my thoughts, and I still maintain them. And so I took this chance to sort of like look back at the film, see how it holds up. And I took a look at what other critics are saying about this film. So I'm going to do just kind of a brief review and kind of a check-in, a little bit of a festival check-in here. Now, in case you didn't hear my thoughts on it before, this is from A24. It is now on Apple TV Plus, that streaming service. It is a documentary that was directed and produced by Jesse Moss and Amanda McBain. It follows a group of teenage boys, quite a few of them, like I think at least 1,000, who attend something called Boy State. So there's a Boy State and there's a Girl State that takes place in Texas. And they get all of these teenagers together and they have to create a fake version of a representative government from the ground up. They have to start with electing the very lower rungs of the government, and then to the point where they eventually elect like the higher office. And it really is sort of condensing the political process into arbitrarily, there are two parties the kids are sorted into randomly, and the kids have to meet with their parties and they have to figure out what are our issues, what are the things we believe in, and they have to vote on these things alongside the people they've already elected, and then that becomes their party platform. And then it gets into, all right, now we have to elect our highest office. I forget if it was governor or senator or something to that effect. It's like a very high office in Texas government, and it has to be built upon the party platform, and it's voted on by everyone across the two parties. And the point of this experiment, it's something that's been around for quite a while. It's helped shape a lot of politicians who are in power today, a lot of ones that you'll recognize, I believe like Bill Clinton, for example, Ted Cruz, people who are very, very prominent power-wise in the political world right now. And the point of this experiment is to show these teenagers, they're all around like 17 years old or so, show them really how does politics work. And you sort of go into it glossy-eyed of like, politics is about, fighting for what you believe in and creating change. And then slowly over the course of this documentary, though, you see a lot of kids figure out what politics really is. It's a horse race. It is really just you trying to make your team win and doing whatever you can to make it win. And we explore the viewpoints of several of these teenagers who all come at it a different way. You have one who is kind of just reptilian. He doesn't really have a core set of beliefs dictating what he does. He really just wants to win. Now, he does have certain beliefs that inform that drive to win, but he's the character who will he's a real person who will do really whatever it takes. And you see a lot of modern politics in this kid, and it's scary to see because of just how obvious and how potent it clearly is in our current world. You have another teenager who you can tell that he is just sort of saying whatever he needs to say to win, even though he is sort of more conflicted. And he's somebody who does have certain beliefs, but he has to hide them in order to do what he thinks will appeal to these kids. He takes certain positions only because he knows that they're more popular with this group of conservative children. I say children, they're teenagers. And then you have the more optimistic, the more idealistic, progressive guy, and he is like the central character. I keep saying character, I don't know why. This documentary is so narrative driven, it's sometimes hard to remember that it is reality. So in real time, I'm having trouble sifting that away. But that just speaks to how good this documentary is at pacing these events in a way that makes sense and is really electric to watch. But yes, the central teenager who is running this ticket that is very progressive, especially the odds are not in his favor to win, but he has these beliefs on things like guns and immigration and abortion, things that are socially progressive that most of these students have absolutely no interest in. They come from more conservative backgrounds, so they're opposed to it. And you're seeing him try to like appeal to the other side just by sheer force of his convictions. And what's more interesting about this documentary, because if that was all it would sort of fall into that danger zone of being like a puff piece about a kid, but instead it's more of a microcosm of how all of these political forces collide and interact with each other. And I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned, no matter your political persuasion. There's a lot of hopefulness in this. There's a lot of reason for optimism, but there's also a lot of reason for just how desperate I think we are for the future of America in general to be controlled by people who do have real convictions, who do fight for the right thing, whatever they deem it so, and have good reasons for it. If this is the future, I think the future is mostly bright. I think we have to sort of accept that. First of all, these are kids, these are teenagers. They don't really know the world yet. So you're really watching immature, inexperienced people kind of punch above their weight. And I think that is the most interesting part of this movie, is when they do rise to the occasion, how fascinating it is to see. And I am curious what people who are of maybe, I think people who are kind of in the middle politically, who are very independent and moderate, and they don't identify with any sort of political party, I think they might like this more than anybody, because it sort of appeals to a lot of centrist ideology, in the sense that you can work with the other side, you can do this and that. And I think this will appeal to plenty of people who are progressive as well. I'm curious how it's going to appeal to people who do come from that conservative background, who might look at the way this movie treats or depicts some of those students and maybe makes them feel like they get less attention because they are conservative. I could see a lot of resentment thrown toward this movie of like, I feel like I'm not properly represented here. And then of course I can already hear the more progressive people saying, who cares, because they certainly feel like they're in the right. And that is sort of the tension of this movie. I have not talked to anybody who has taken a chance on this, who is a more conservative or at least center right kind of political person. But when I do, I'm definitely going to try to listen to what they have to say about this movie as well, because I would be very fascinated to sort of get their reaction. I can only sort of, try to remember when I was a lot more conservative, how I would react if I had seen something like this. I probably would have said something about liberal agenda and it's super partisan and that sort of thing. But, there are more serious minded conservatives than I was at that point in my life, who would probably have a more nuanced take on this. And I definitely want to hear it. So that's Boy State. I still highly recommend this. A-, must see, no matter who you are, where you come from. I hope a lot of people check it out. It is just brilliant to watch. And I really hope that people watch it and get activated to get into politics and to, get fired up about government in a way that is sort of rooted not by political power or ambition, but really just sort of like a desire to serve the public and to get your ideas out there, to fight for them, rather than complain about everything all the time online, which is unfortunately what I think too many of us are more resigned to do. So I hope you check out Boy State as well pretty soon. Will Ashton, maybe we can have a Boy State episode with the boys. I don't know.
Okay, sure.